All is not lost in the country. Of course, we know there's that sense of bugbear and fear about our economy, despondency that is downright, to the village level where people are not feeling, the trickle effect of where they're saying the economy is growing, but we cannot see it, of course, trickling down to mashinani as it is, or maybe that also brought to bear on our tables in terms of food. So these are some of the things that we want to talk about today, just to have a conversation with our panelists who've quite expressly, given the sentiments of what they think about the burden of conscience of the nation and where we are at. So we're not losing it yet. We'll still hang there. Even if it's hanging by the fingernails, it's still hanging. We can still move on. And the question that is being posed is, how do we restore this burden of conscience as Kenyans, that we are not becoming a sort of a man's inhumanity to man, that we are not caring about our neighbor anymore. We've become very barbaric and in terms of, the macabre killings that we've seen lately, because people now are putting much premium also to property other than humanity, right? That's I'll actually slash my brother because we are squabbling over a piece of land. I'll also maybe, hold my husband by the nape of the neck and try and strangle him because, of course, there's a huge stash of money salted away in the bank. So where are we losing it? And this is what we want to put it also with our panelists. They've raised all this. But let's just begin with that pivotal question that we had from Prof, giving us, a wide array of what is really happening in the country. We had Dr. Caesar really talking about truth-seeking faculty, which is conscience as it is right now. But can we also hark back to our education system? Can we begin there? Did we have it skewed from the beginning, where we placed much premium on the sciences other than humanities? And we know humanities were given that low cadre. If you actually hold for humanity, then you've not really, you're not really sort of a bright student, so to speak. You feel like you really should change. It's for the engineers, for the architects, it's for the doctors, for the lawyers. But if you're in archaeology or philosophy, then that is not it. Social sciences as well. So we have a huge population that is skewed on one end. We have the doctors, we have the lawyers, but the ethos and the humanity to really drive these particular professions are not there. So maybe we are beginning from a point where we started it on the wrong foot altogether, right? Do we begin from that, Prof? Do you think maybe that could be another worry that we had a skewed starting point from the beginning and now we're reaping the effects of this down the line?
Well, I must thank you and thank the Nation Group because I'm almost shedding tears when you ask that question. That's a question that's been very close to my heart. Mm-hmm. I've discussed this question with the CS education when I was at the university.
Yes.
We have a fundamental problem with our education system. I'm getting emotional about this, sorry for doing this on air. But it illustrates this problem. While I respect celebration of people who pass exams, I think the society must still, based on what I was saying there, you have 1 million students who sat exams, and 9,000 get over 400. And the entire society is looking at the 9,000. The society is not looking at the 900,000. What happens to 900,000? They're left to the devices. We are a country that consistently supports those who need less support and ignores those who actually need the support. Some of these people, and I see Kenyans joking about these things, that, if you got 159, then you belong to Eliud, and you should... Guys, let's take this thing seriously. Some of those people who got 159 and below are people who have got mental challenges that need support. Some of the students who purportedly failed are Kenyans. They're Kenyan citizens. We need to worry about them just as you worry about myself. I was an extremely bright student. I was among the top students in this country. And I could have succeeded without help from government. And I'm the one who got help. The person who needed help most did not actually get help. That's the first point I wanted to make.
No, but before we go with that,
the second point
I think we need to probe that point a bit and just throw it also to a panelist as well.
Yes.
That if you got 159 and below, then you have a mental
No, I'm not saying you have. Sorry.
That's what you say.
No. Sorry. What I said.
Yes.
No. Don't misquote me. What I actually said
Did I get
is
it wrong?
that.
What did you guys hear?
No. No. Let me clarify this.
Okay,
I mean,
clarify.
That'll be very
It's good to
unfortunate.
have clarity, yes.
Yes. What I said was that there are people who actually got very low grades, and some of these people actually have mental challenges. I'm not saying they all have mental challenges. Some do actually have. I mean, objectively, not. I mean.
I get your point.
Because basically mental disabilities, and we're saying we need to support those people. We don't need to laugh at them.
It's true. It's true.
In fact, let me use physical disability for example. I mean, it's like saying if I can't jump into a matatu, then you laugh at me. While on the other hand, what we should be doing is to say, okay, fine, this is somebody who needs more help. That is the spirit in which I wanted to suggest.
I get it.
But in any event, I mean, there's nothing negative
I get
about
it,
being sick.
But which is true. Which is true. I agree with you because the aspect of using maybe one broad brush to say our people who've actually gotten these marks and below, they could be having mental challenges.
No.
That is not. It is not the case. You've clarified.
No, that's not the case.
But again, you raise a very important question of how do we also normally address people or look keenly on these people who've scored maybe 159 and below.
How do we support them? Exactly.
Because
that is
in our education system, I think we subject a lot of our students as a cluster.
Correct.
Yeah. There are students or the pupils who are suffering, from autism.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a slow learning disability, but this has not been detected along the way. And we beat them black and blue, pass your maths, pass your English.
Exactly.
You're an E grader, and I know there's a cluster of that. And then we subject them in the corner there as failures in the society.
Correct.
But they have a problem.
Exactly.
Right? You're a slow learner. Dyslexia is another thing.
Yeah.
So, and then we do not have a very robust ECD learning system that can actually detect this. I don't know what you have to say, Dr.
Yeah. Dibal, you talk of education, and I think it's very good that we talk about education. The way we judge success in our education system is wrong. And I would like to suggest, and I'm looking now at a solution, at a way forward. The problems we have currently in this country are problems of character.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And I don't think we really address character issues in our education system.
Correct.
What is character? Character is actually habitual practice of virtues or vices. That's what then gives you a good character or a bad character. And what we are seeing from the system that we have is there's a lot of practice, habitual practice of vices, which gives many people to appear like they have bad characters. If we look at the media, etc., we find we can label people as these are bad characters, these are bad leaders, these are bad people, because of habitual practice. Now, where does the training come from in character? The first point of education is in the family.
Correct.
You understand? And so long as we fail at that level, it is very difficult to correct it at later stages. So first of all, we have a failure at the family level, okay? Due to various reasons, poverty and people and couples separating because of work and other reasons, many children are being brought up in maybe families that don't have a mother and a father. You understand? Now, because of that, it's difficult to educate these children in character. And even when the parents are there, they're not available because they're so busy. So they don't see their role for educating there. Now, if you don't form, when a child is born, they are tabula rasa, they are a blank slate. And if you do not form them at an early stage, they will grow in a particular way, and it will be difficult to correct them. And I think this is one of the areas we are looking at as a problem in education. Then we go to the education institutions.
Right.
They don't help because they don't focus on character also. They focus on the marks, as we say. And that there is the problem.
Correct.
Because then our education system is not contributing to a better person who will then contribute to a better society. So the outcomes we are seeing can be linked up to that problem of education. But you also point out, are humanities a good way of educating people, especially at the university level? Philosophy, sociology, psychology. When I went to university, I did a BA. And those of us who are doing BAs were known as below average students. You understand? BA, below average. And those who are doing engineering and other technical subjects were glorified. But were we worse human beings?
Exactly.
Because we were doing BAs? I don't think so. You understand? And the humanities also. We studied philosophy. It helped us to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So the process of cognitive development, helping you to think, is where we are lacking, because we've been, put through the system that ingurgitates facts
Correct.
Ingurgitate information
Correct,
and regurgitate.
Correct.
But the aspect of cognitive development, you to holistically think as a human being, is not there completely.
Correct.
And that's why we can have educated fools.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're not thinking. I think there's a broader aspect that we maybe need to also pay on our education system, prof, as it is right now, because we have all these advanced countries that they pick up also the system of the thinkers, the Aristotle and the Platos of the day, Epictetus and all, people who are advancing thoughts, that were thinkers as well.
Dibal, when you go to Western countries, and I did my degrees in the US, almost all, I started at KU, then I finished in the US. The first 2 years of college is what we call general education.
General education.
We teach you how to think. So you're able to think through problems. You are able to develop that logical way of looking at things. And therefore, that graduate is very different from the graduate who goes, and that graduate is in STEM, and goes throughout with STEM.
Correct.
And therefore, when they come out on the other side, they are wonderful engineers, but they cannot think through simple problems. They are wonderful doctors, but they cannot think through simple problems. And that's why if you go to the US and other countries, medical education is a graduate education. Law is a graduate education. That means you have the fundamentals of logical thinking before you become a lawyer, before you go to law school. You have your basic sciences right before you apply to medical schools. Those are the fundamental issues that affect some of these professions. Let me go back to what my brother here said. Out of the 100% children who start Standard 1 today, historically in this country, only 10 to 12% will ever see the inside of a university.
Right.
And that's what you see, we pay too much attention to the 12% of our population, and we forgot the 88% that will never see the inside of a university. And that's why I champion early childhood education. Because if you get that child from age 3 to Saturday 3, if you get it right there, you have it right for the rest of it. Early childhood, ECD through Saturday 3, they have one teacher. So if that child is confused or lost because of that one teacher and the environment within those formative years, by the time they go to grade 4 or Saturday 4 and they have 5 teachers, they are 5 times more confused, and we lose them there. And the statistics show us that, that when the kids are well taken care of in early childhood education, the system succeeds. Now, however, let's talk about the C and D students, because now we're talking about the A and B students who become engineers and doctors. Historically, we know the A students will end up working for the C and D students. Who needs doctors and lawyers and accountants and all that? It's the business people.
Yes.
It's the small entrepreneurs. The B students will end up working for government. And that's basically what happened. Now the C and D students, because they're the majority, drive the economy of the country. And that's why our education system is flawed in a way that it does not recognize these folks who got C's and D's and they have bright ideas of creating something. I usually, when I talk to my people, because my last 10 years in America I was a college president, and I dealt with 11%. When I came to this country and I thought about starting a university, and I asked myself, why do I need to invest in 11% of the population instead of 88% of the population? That's why I started my college. And that's why those are the C and D students that I take care of, that I look, and those are the ones that will drive this economy, not the A and B students. Now, once we get it there, we look at the problems that we have, the fundamentals of the economy. You talk about economic growth. This country, what we have is what we call growth without development. And I think that I remember the governor of Central Bank about 2 weeks ago, he was quoted as saying, we are seeing a lot of activities. All this growth is not translating to jobs. So when you have growth without development, a majority of the population suffers. I was in China about 2 weeks ago.
How is it growth anyway?
It is growth.
It is growth.
What metrics are we using as financial?
Because it's financial. When you look at your GDP,
You look at the GDP.
the amount of money you're spending is a whole lot. It's expanding. Okay, but is that translating to real jobs with the common person in the village, in our slums, in our street? No, it's not.
But we've always argued that has become a very sort of a doubtable way of judging the growth of the economy.
Exactly.
And that's why the formula is
Even
not
the economists
working.
are saying no, this is not really the way to actually gauge the growth of the economy.
The formula does
I think
not
the
work
simple
for
way of doing it
developing
is that,
countries.
if you cheated a bank, Dibal, and they gave you 200 million, and you bought a house, when you're measuring growth, we'll actually come and check what you have. And then we'll say Dibal is actually worth, is grown from 50 million to now 300 million. But the truth of the matter is that if you check your ability to support your family, if you check your ability to eat and so on, if you look at your real income, we'll find out that you're actually poorer than you were before. That's exactly what's happening at national level.
Let me finish this point because I don't want to get lost.
Right.
Now, when I was in China, I went to Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou.
Right.
Shanghai is the capital center of China. Actually, the second most important capital center in the world after New York. Then Shenzhen is where they do all the innovations in China. Guangzhou is the trading part of, and that's where I found most Africans. You go to Shenzhen, you don't see a lot of Africans. You go to Guangzhou, you have Africans all over the place. Why are they there? They are there to buy stuff, to come and sell to their people. Now, if you go to our streets here every single day, there are people who are selling mitumbas and all these other things coming to China. Now, you and I are not going to go buy there. But we have this large group of poor people who are trading amongst themselves, and that's where the fundamental flaw of our economy is. So we have poor trading amongst the poor. There's no real creation of value and wealth in that trade.
Correct.
So we need to refocus and see how we can get our people to start producing stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think now starting with education, there is a whole generation of Kenyans that at some point during the 844 system, at the peak of it, had this subject, social education and ethics. And one of the reasons why I think the academia have a role to play in this is to perhaps study and find out whether this generation of Kenyans who had an opportunity to study social education and ethics have a different character formation from those who did not. During our time, we did not have it.
I was one of them.
But the way we were brought up is such that if you spotted your school teacher, also somebody who looked like him or her, you'd start tucking in your shirt.
Right.
Everybody was your parent and was at liberty to punish you.
Correct.
Accordingly.
Correct.
And your parent would not have an issue with that.
Right.
I've had an opportunity to lead a neighborhood association. And you receive all manner of cases. Oh, so-and-so's child has broken my side mirror and all that. And then the parent comes, looked at the side mirror and say, how much is it worth? Not admonishing the child. Now, that is the kind of children or younger people that we have in society. People who have been treated like eggs. They are never admonished for small mistakes they do. So for them, everything is right. Secondly, the old education system was graduated in such a way that a certificate holder, somebody who had the E student, in fact, one of our best professors, the late Professor Karau, who wrote East African Agriculture, started with a certificate at Egerton and became a professor up to when he died as the registrar of academic affairs. Now, the system was such that it had a way of enabling people to grow in their scholarship and be able to attain the highest attainable level.
Correct.
What does our current system do? If you fail in Form 4, that is the end of you. We used to have things, levels like Kenya Junior, so that if somebody was not good enough to go straight, for example, to Form 5, Form 5 and 6, you go to a certain level where you are supposed to, improve on certain grades and then be able to get admitted to the university. And I think that for me is where our education system is wrong. What is our measure of success in life? Forget about education. That's the measure of success in life, and that's why the Sonkos of this world will continue to mess up, because if people think the measure of success is how much money you have and not how you got it, then that is the kind of leaders we have. And it's not that Sonko did not compete with more capable and morally upright people. We had people like Peter Kenneth, And the Kenyans, the A and B students who should have, supported Peter Kenneth to lead this county, left it to the business people, the C and the D and E students. So those are the people who elected our leadership.
So
That is, for me, is where we get it wrong.
What will you make of such a headlines? We shouldn't even be complaining then. That is on the front page of the Standard.
I think I would not say is the most, because we have not had, a comparison. With whom are we comparing with him? But if at all we are comparing with probably the 46 other governors, I think he's just a cheeky fella who is taking advantage of a society that celebrates success in material terms. And I think the place where the rain started beating us is when we acquired this, we put a higher premium on the acquisitive instinct at the instinct of workmanship.
Correct.
Corruption thrives when people want to acquire without any regard to how.
Correct.
And so the end justifies the means. Yet in reality, the means that we use to acquire should be embodied in the end result that we want to achieve. Right. And that is why we have to send all police officers to guard students, unarmed students, to sitting an exam, standard 8. We have to, the cabinet sec, the entire cabinet, must accompany to ensure that everything is to plan.
So is this an aspect of institutional failures in the country, Pete? What do you think?
I don't think so. And it's so interesting listening to a debate like this, that very quickly we all see the big problem. We all see the failure and almost hopelessness of a society that has drifted and has come to a place where it looks like it's irredeemable. And, we want to address moral issues with institutional or legal responses, which is a mismatch. We have a moral problem that permeates all the way down to our education system. I think Prof mentioned something about leadership. The key here is leadership, because we can redesign our education system. Yeah. We can come up with new healthcare systems. We can come up with new policies. At the end of the day, that young man who's being educated, if he does not believe that hard work pays, if he does not believe that studying so that I learn this material will pay in the end, then we're actually wasting our time. And why I say leadership is that we take the cue from those who are above us, those in authority. So we must address the question of what then will it take to restore. That's what we need to be grappling with. Because we know the problem. We can point fingers. I know so-and-so. You can talk about Sonko and this. That's what it is. That's what we have right now. Let me just sort of throw a couple of things out, because this is a very personal thing. It goes beyond institutions. It comes now down to the individual. Because if I want society to change, I have to be willing to be a representative of that change. I have to embody the change that I wanted to see there. And one of the things that I'm not seeing in society is a recognition and almost like a repentance of wrong that we have done. And as long as we do not categorize what we're doing wrong as wrong, it remains under the carpet. And people will continue to do whatever they're doing because we have not redefined this as wrong. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. I dare to throw this out there. The former president, Moi, at the end of his term, on one of the public forums, final forums, he stood and said something like, if I have done anybody wrong, forgive me. Now, there was some applause, and over time people have said that was a good thing. But Dibal, how much more powerful would it be if I acknowledged the specific wrongs that I did? Not just if.
Yes.
If I have done, which gives me a loophole to say maybe I didn't.
Correct.
If I have done something wrong is a wrong statement. I have wronged this nation in this. I have allowed this to happen. I will restore to the extent that I can.
Right.
I may not be able to go back in history and fix everything,
Yes.
but acknowledging this, I think, will be a powerful starting point for this country to begin to go forward.
All right. So how do we, different institutions also play pivotal roles? The church, the civil society, the parachurch ministries as well. You know, different facets of a society in awakening the conscience of a nation, calling it as it is. You know, if corruption is corruption, it is not. You don't just maybe try and pussyfoot around it and just call it corruption. They say this is thievery. You're a thief. At the end of the day, you are actually a thief in public office. We should not just be mincing words, but we call them out and as they are. These are the things that we need to, you know, subject our leaders to accountability instead of celebrating them. How do we help all these different institutions in trying to achieve, you know, a clear conscience? If I lost my I think it's a Caesar, then we'll come to you. Yeah,
Oh,
Caesar,
yeah.
yeah.
In fact, I like what Pete said. And we're in a leadership forum right now.
Right.
We need to address our leadership.
Correct.
Because if we can have the leaders that are willing
Correct.
and desire strongly to improve this country, but they will do it. They
Then
require.
we need to make it crystal then. Who are these leaders we're talking about?
It is you and I.
Correct.
It's not out there. In whatever place we are, if you're in a religious institution, and you're a leader there, he mentioned that, Churchill mentioned that he was leading his neighborhood association.
Right.
That is where he will exercise integrity. That is where he will exercise fairness. That is where he will not mince his words. He'll speak truth to power. He will say what it is. He will not pussyfoot and say this is corruption. He'll say this is theft. You're a thief. We can't accept this. So leaders require courage. They require a certain level of humility to accept that they're not perfect and they need to keep on improving. You understand? But when pride overcomes us and we decide because we are so proud, we choose what we want and we ignore what is true and nobody can question us, then we're not leading. And we've not taken up the mantle of leadership. And I think if we can address leadership, I'll just give you two examples. One country is Singapore. The leader of Singapore, what was his name? Lee Kuan Yew. 30 years from third world to first world.
Right.
Sheikh, the leader of Dubai, okay, the Al Maktoum family. 30 years from a backwater to a metropolis,
Right.
financial center of the world. That was leadership, my dear friends. And that is what can make the difference. Even in this country, we've got good examples of leadership. When the education system was so rotten, there was a gentleman called Mr. Fred Matiang'i,
Yes.
Dr. Fred Matiang'i.
Right.
He came on board and he was given that docket. He exercised leadership. He said, yes, it is rotten. I've been given this responsibility and been given a cabinet secretary position looking after education. I will deal with education and improve it for the benefit of this country.
But could you
that
also-
was leadership.
That was leadership, yeah.
Yeah.
But could we also subject that to maybe also the support from the environment? The same Matiang'i you're talking about,
Yeah.
his ministry right now is listed as one of the most corrupt in the country. So we wonder, where is the Matiang'i in education? Why are you not extrapolating those facets and you know, the tenets of leadership that you had there in the Ministry of Interior? Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, there's a way in which the individual,
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
the individual personality
Yeah.
impacts on leadership. I'll give you an example.
Could
in
we?
the Grand Coalition government,
Yes. Could we hear from Alfred? Then we come to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to be fair and follow sequentially. Yes. Then
No,
we come to and Prof.
Well, the reason I wanted to speak was to actually add on to what Dr. Mwangi is saying, and linked also with the bigger question that we're asking, that when some of these things become social, structural issues, when they become a norm, how do you change social structures? The way you change social structure is through power. And where do you exercise power? You exercise power through leadership. So this is the link that we have a rot in the family. You need to identify those who actually have power to exercise leadership in this particular place to cause a change. That's why we're making noises about the president, because at national level, the president and his cabinet have the power to change quite a bit of social structures. If you go to the universities, the vice chancellors there, the heads of council have the power to create a change. If you come to my family, I've got quite a bit of power compared to my children to make changes within my family. So we must look at leadership as first leadership everywhere. In my profession, I consider myself a leader. In my family, I consider myself a leader. In the village, people are exercising leadership at different level. And those are the apex of each of these institutions, whether the institution is family or a small gathering in the neighborhood or the country, actually have power and authority, and this is the most transformative. You can come and tell me, oh, Alfred, I think your children need to go to some special school because your family is not doing well. Actually, the starting point is easy if you started with me, to tell me what sort of a father are you, and what sort of mother is your wife. If you get that question clearly, my children are likely to toe the line. I once told the president of this country that look here, the day Kenyans know, the days Kenyans know that Uhuru Kenyatta holds no prisoners when it comes to corruption, corruption will disappear out of the window. And the structures, because these are structural issues, so you need real leadership to be able to deal with them. Same with the church, that if you're saying, look here, this is the red line, if you cross that red line, we shall send you to hell. But what's happening? We have leadership now that is around comfort. So for me, I want privileges as a husband. I want privileges as a chief justice. I want privileges as a president. I want privileges as a bishop. But I'm not looking at it that I'm responsible for a system that has so much, and I'm wielding so much power that I can use for this broader good of society.
Right. Chacha?
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to draw attention to a particular moments in our history as a country.
Briefly, yeah,
That in 2002, when we got rid of KANU as the ruling party, there were citizen arrests.
Yes.
Because people saw an opportunity to right all the wrongs that had happened. Who undermined it? The leadership.
Yes.
And people came back to what had been normalized as the way of doing things. What is it that Julius Kambarage Nyerere did differently? And that's why, in as much as I agree with Pete that it's about the individual, it is much about the individual as it is about the leadership.
The leadership, correct.
That today we are seeing a bit of movement in the fight against corruption because the highest level of leadership is leading from the front, despite the challenges. And we have had an opportunity as a country to redesign our governance system. We have a constitution that some of us in the civil society deliberately pushed in some of the things that we thought were unpopular. We had a revolution in 2010 when we adopted a new constitution where every chapter starts with principles.
Thank you.
So what are the principles of devolution? What are the principles of public service?
Thank you.
The challenge is, have we adhered to those principles?
Have we?
Where is chapter 6 in all these things?
Thank you.
Where is article 10, the national values and principles of government? Are they still values, or have we turned them into norms?
All right.
Our way of life. And that is where the rain started beating.
And of course, sometimes you can pick the sentiments of even the political cartoonist as well, just to give us also the sense of where the country is. And I went to the archives and picked this particular editorial cartoon. I know it's a bit squeamish to see it in the morning with the family, but this is the current situation. I can see right now what is trending is all that these MPs, this is what Kenyans are taking on Twitter right now, these MPs. But this is what they are doing to this particular country. Look at that emaciated cow with a band-aid there called Kenya. We've wrapped this country to where it is right now with the leadership that we're talking about. We have no conscience, right? And this is the same cow that we want to feed every Kenyan, right? To have, for it to be healthy, full of course, celebrate, these leaders when they're actually being taken to the EACC Integrity Center. Our man syndrome. But the reality on the ground is we are raping our own Kenya. Maybe you can speak on this briefly, even as we prepare our headline thoughts. Just briefly, we've got like 3 minutes to go. Tasli, looking at that editorial cartoon, Pete, this is Kenya. These are our leaders.
Well, I look at this and I'll come right back to where I started. That this is what we have. Leadership is a perception. if I perceive you to be untrustworthy, any actions you will take to try to get me to be honest or to be right are not going to work. And I keep wanting to say, let us go back and open up and lay things on the ground. In 2007, we came to a brink of collapse, and at that moment, many people said, this country has an opportunity to right itself. And one of the things they said, let's go back and look at the historical injustices. It doesn't mean we're going to restore everybody. Let's go back there and acknowledge them. Let's go back and open the books and say, these things were done wrong. Let us forgive each other. Let us move forward with a sense of purpose. We hid those things under the carpet. But now we sit at 2019 and say we want to solve corruption, we want to bring a sense of morality. And I don't blame anybody for saying, you know, what you're really doing is giving me nice words, but you're not genuine.
Prof, we are raping our country.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Briefly, also, as you prepare your headline thoughts on this as well.
Yeah.
Very briefly, sir.
If you look at what we are doing as a society, and we look at how our expenditures are, 56 shillings out of 100 shillings that we earn in this country goes towards paying a government worker before we even start paying our loans and all those things. And when you see what's happening in our parliament, where privileges are sought, and that's why I tell Kenyans, you judge leaders by leader behavior. How do they behave? We live in an ecosystem, and within this ecosystem, there's something that holds a society together, and that is the rule of law. And if we do not have deference to the rule of law, then we'll have all the problems, and they'll continue as we are. America today, Trump is undergoing impeachment because of the perception, reality or not, that he broke the law by doing certain things. We need to hold our people, our leaders, to those higher standards, and if they do break the law, we expect the law to take its course.
Thank you. Right. Dr. Caesar Mwangi, maybe also your headline thoughts. I wish we had time. I can see a lot of reactions on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. I wish I had more time. It's very sad when we say we are raping our own country. That is a big tragedy. And I must say that there's a song which I love very much by a British man who lived here for many years, and then he had to leave. And he wrote a song called My Land is Kenya, so warm and wild and free. That was Roger Whittaker. We have people like Eric Wainaina who sang a song called Daima Mimi ni Mkenya, Mwananchi Mzalendo. I want to say that we probably have one of the best countries in the world. And the greatest tragedy is when we don't take care of the treasure that we have. And the greatest tragedy is when we behave as if we shall live forever and we do not have to leave anything better for those who are behind us. And I think this should be the soul searching we should do at our leadership level, at our level. And every single leader in this country should be thinking, will I leave this country better than I found it or not? I need to leave it better than I found it.
Prof, briefly, your closing remarks.
My closing remarks is basically where I started, that in fact, I want to make reference to the Bible also. The Bible says that whatever you do to the least of this, you do it to me. If we don't take care of the weak, if we don't take care of the poor in our society, if we don't take care of these many people that God put in our hands as leaders, if we don't take care of our children, if we don't take care of the defenseless, if we don't take care of a lot of these people whose future has been bequeathed in our hands, if we are borrowing from the future so that our grandchildren will have nothing to spend, we are actually bereft of any morality, and we need to recalibrate our moral compass.
We need to recalibrate our moral compass. Churchill Suba, your closing remarks?
My closing remarks takes me back to one of our disciplinary teachers. There was a teacher in school in charge of discipline, and he used to make us chorus in the assembly that when wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, everything is lost. And I think as a society, we are at a point where we have lost confidence in our institutions of governance, in our social fabric, in our moral rearmament. And I think it is time we went back to retrace our steps and began to restock.
Thank you.
Because that, for me, is the missing link in all this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peter Ndang.
I think my closing remark will just be that we should not kid ourselves that we can keep running down this road forever. Because we've seen around us, and even this very period we're right now, some of the most stable places like Hong Kong and others, there are certain triggers that suddenly make something come to a stop. That we need to change direction, or we will face the consequences.
Thank you. Right. Our panelists, I want to really thank you this morning. I think it has been a very engaging discussion, strapped for time, lots of reactions on Twitter I can see on this as well. Have we really lost our burden of cautions? We just leave it up to you to, decipher that. And looking at this editorial cartoon, that I just want to leave it. I know it's gross, it's early in the morning, but this is just a sober reminder of what we're doing to our country. Right? Will you want to see that cow die, gasping for breath, on a band-aid, being raped by the leaders of this nation? And this is our posy of goons. I'll leave it for you to think about it. Thank you very much for your valued company. My name is Dibala Now.